This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendall of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. Hello and welcome to episode 98 of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Today's a great one. It's all about fun stories of getting lost. I think nearly all the time when we get lost on our travels, it turns into a fun story. It's not always a fun story at the time, and that is pretty typical of the stories I have for you today. But in retrospect, it's a great story that you tell regularly. I know my fun story of getting lost takes place in Japan, and I don't think I've told it on the podcast before, but let me summarize in case I have. It was getting down Mount Fuji. So I climbed Mount Fuji in a group. I don't know, it's quite a big group. We'd bussed in from Osaka. It was the cheapest way to get there. But everyone else, bar me and my boyfriend in the group, were Japanese speakers. And our friend, who was bilingual, had translated the directions for us about what to do once we got to the top. But somehow my boyfriend and I didn't quite get the right message, and we ended up going down like the wrong side of Mount Fuji and ended up at completely the wrong station. And it took us a while to figure this out. And eventually a lovely person that we met at this station telephoned our tour bus company for us, and they came to pick us up. It was quite embarrassing. Plus, in the meantime, all the people who'd gone to the right spot had been to an onsen and had a lovely soak in a hot bath, which would have been really nice after climbing all night and all day. But anyway, I got lost on Mount Fuji, so there you go. Now it's a funny story. Anyway, there's more funny stories in a moment. But before that, I need to tell you about our fabulous sponsor this week. It fits with my Japan story because it is Boxu. So Boxu is a company that sends subscription boxes of amazing Japanese snacks, both sweet and savoury. And now my son and I are crazy excited because as I record this, our special June Nagoya Boxu is winging its way to us, so it should arrive any day, we believe. You can actually see on the Boxu website what snacks are included in this box, but my son decided he wanted a surprise, so I can't talk to you about what we're going to get because he'll be listening, but I will include a link in the show notes so you can see. Just don't tell my son. Also on their website, you can look back over their past boxes, which I find fascinating. They have some really cool collections. One I particularly liked was the cherry blossom themed blossoming spring box from a couple of months ago, and they had a tea time box last year, which was perfect for me, I think, because I'm a bit obsessed with Japanese tea and what to eat with it. Anyway, if you want to try Boxu, you can use the discount code THOUGHT5, the number 5, THOUGHT5, to get $5 off any order at boxu.com. Now, on to our fun stories of getting lost, and the first one today comes from Kelly Dunning of the Global Goose blog, and it's one of the most entertaining getting lost stories I've heard in quite a while.
One of my favorite stories, just because it was like a little bit scary at the time, but then just so ridiculous, was the time that we got lost in the jungle in Borneo.
Ooh. Tell me more.
So, yeah, what had happened was we were traveling around Borneo. This was a few years ago, and we went to a place called Lambir Hills National Park, and it's incredibly beautiful, just like the unspoiled natural national park in the jungle. And you can stay in these very simple, very basic like huts kind of, and it's just this long road out there, and then some huts and like a ranger station kind of a place, and then there's all these hikes you can go on that go kind of radiating out from the huts. Oh, nice. So it was so beautiful, and it's just like it's the wild, the jungle, right? So there's like enormous butterflies and just this everything's so lush and green. So on our first day there, we decided we were going to go on one of these hikes, and we went to the ranger station, and they gave us this map, and it was a very simple map. It's like kind of almost cartoon map, you know what I mean?
This is a bad start, I think.
Like, not everything's to scale or whatever, but they said there's several trails, and each of the trail is marked with a color. So there's the blue trail and the yellow trail and the white trail and the red trail, etc. And so we looked and we said, oh, the red trail's not that that bad. Like, we'll have that, and like, we could do the red trail, and it should take us back to here, within an hour, and there's a nice waterfall, and it looks really lovely. So we decided to do the red trail, and we walked out of the ranger station, and we saw back behind, there was a big red ribbon on the tree. So we thought, brilliant, that's the start of the red trail, because that was the idea. Everything's marked by colors. So we started walking towards this red tree with the red ribbon, and then we go into the forest a bit, and there's another tree with red ribbon, and we follow that one, and on, and there was a path. So we were thinking, yes, this is great. Like, this is the red trail. And at times the path got a little bit overgrown, but we're thinking, well, it's a national park in the middle of Borneo, like maybe it's not as well maintained, that's fine. And we were having and we didn't have any idea what we were getting ourselves into. And after quite a while of walking, I started to like turn to Lee and said, like, what's wrong with this trail? Like, why does it keep going around in circles? Why does it keep like disappearing? Like, why do we sometimes end up in a clearing where there's like 5 trees around with red ribbons that are in all directions?
Oh, no.
and we don't know where to go. And it started to feel a little bit like Blair Witch Project.
Oh gosh.
In the sense of like, I'm sure we've passed this log before. I'm sure we're going in circles. Where are we?
No.
What's going on? And we're in there. We were in the forest wandering around for about 2 hours, and I was starting to get like increasingly anxious about what the trail actually was. And at one point we just kind of were like, okay, well, we're lost. We don't know where we are, and we don't know where this trail is, and we think we've been going in circles, and I don't know the way out. I can't figure out which way is back to our cabin. Fortunately, like, we had a lot of water with us and a little bit of food, and like, so we were like,
that's
okay,
something.
But my mind was starting to imagine this scenario where we were like lost in the jungles of Borneo forever, and we had to like learn how to fend off, the trees and eat the little bugs, and that's what I was imagining. I was like, this is how we, we're gonna live and die in this forest forever.
Oh, you poor thing.
And the only thing we had wandering around in the forest for like several hours was this cartoonish simplified map. And there was only 3 things on the map. There was our cabins that we started at, there was a lookout tower, and there was a road. And we were somewhere in between these 3 things. And so eventually we kept wandering until we found the lookout tower, and we were like, yes, because once you find the lookout tower, and if you can find 2 points on that triangle, you can find your way to the 3rd one, triangulate your position.
Yeah, that's right. So, this should be a good thing that you found the lookout tower, but I'm not sure yet if it will be.
Well, we found the lookout tower, and it was like, Lee was staying really calm in this situation. He's always calm when things go wrong, even when I'm kind of panicking. And he was like, okay, well, if we can figure out in what direction the road is, then we can triangulate our position. We can find our way back to the cabins. And so we were walking around, like, listening for the sound of cars in the distance.
Was it a busy road? Did you know?
Like, he could hear a car go past, and so he could figure out where the road was. So he knew the road was over there, and he knew that the lookout point was over there. So he could guess at the direction of our camp, and we just kept walking until we got back, and we emerged like, an hour later, stumbled out of the jungle, like sweating, covered in mud,
very stressed.
And we went. Yeah, super stressed. And then we went, what in the world was wrong with that trail? Like, that was the stupidest trail I could ever imagine being on. And then we found the real red trail.
Oh, no.
And the real red trail was like, it was not marked with the red ribbons on the trees. It was marked with a stripe of red paint on a tree.
Oh.
And it was like paved, and there were like parents with their little children and their babies in strollers, like going along this beautiful wide paved trail down to a little waterfall that had like little steps, and it was a totally normal trail.
A lovely little stroll, not like what you guys went on.
Yeah, and then so we were going like, what happened? Where did we go? And what we finally figured out was that there was these like environmental researchers at the park, and they had been collecting samples from the trees, and the red ribbons were to tag which trees to take samples from.
Nothing to do with a walking trail whatsoever.
Oh, but just the fact that it happened to be also red and right next to the red trail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh no, what are the chances?
It was very, very bad planning on their part to it was very deceptive because we just assumed that was the trail. And that's why the trees seemed so random, because they kind of were.
Oh, you poor things. That's terrible. So many things that could have made it different, like if you'd only picked the blue trail instead, but no, you picked the red one, and then there's the red ribbon, so off you go. So
exactly.
No.
Well, we didn't figure it out till afterwards, and then we kind of we pieced it together when we saw these we saw the real trail, and then we're like, why would you mark a red ribbon on a tree? Oh, okay. It's research.
Oh dear, poor Kelly and Lee. So just a lesson there, be careful of the red ribbons. They might not be what you think they are. I did have a good giggle though. My next story is similarly entertaining, I found. It's from Erin Gustafsson, who is living in Copenhagen at the moment and has an interesting and, in retrospect, funny story to tell about a family trip they took recently to Latvia.
We were traveling from Copenhagen to Riga, Latvia for our winter break this past February. And I'd looked up many things to do. It was winter. I wanted to do some city activities and some outdoor activities. And right about an hour outside of Riga is the Olympic bobsled track. I'm very proud of it. And it happened to be where the Latvian team had the skeleton team, the luge team, and the bobsled team had all done their training and practices before going to the Olympics. And it happened to be the Olympics were being aired at the same time from Korea. So we were really excited to go to the bobsled track, right? I had looked it up. No worries. We had not rented a car. We could go to the train station, take the train. These trains are not modern. They look like something out. They look very Eastern European. Uh-huh. They're old.
Right.
But remarkably, they have Wi-Fi. And when you have teens in tow, we got very excited. So we were checking our feeds, connecting with friends. Kids were snapping, all of this, to the point where we kind of knew that the place we were going is called Sigulda, and there are no announcements on the train in English. It's all in Latvian. And we had only been in Latvia for about 24 hours, so I didn't know. I mean, we hadn't heard enough of it to kind of have any recollection or
tuned
awareness
into it
of
at
what
all.
Was,
and in my memory, it's quite a tricky language anyway. So yeah,
right,
got it. Yes,
it doesn't sound like anything that I'm familiar with. So all of a sudden, we're kind of absorbed, looking at the scenery. It's white winter landscape. Trees are coming. It's beautiful. And we pull into the stop, and they announce it over the intercom. Mm-hmm. And it sounds what I think where we're supposed to be going. It has the same start. It starts with S-I, and I can't even pronounce where we did get off in Latvian, but it was supposed to be Sigulda. So I quickly have everybody gather their gloves and hats and phones and get off the train. This is it. This is where we're going. So we get off the train, and I think all the locals went, "What are they doing?
Why would they get off here?
Why would they get off here?" And you get off on this side, and it's snow. You're kind of just on this sidewalk platform covered with snow. There's no signs. There's nothing. The train stands there for a minute, probably wondering, get back on. You should
you've got a
probably
second
get
chance.
back on now. He honks.
Oh, no.
We're still down there, kind of shocked. He pulls away, and then there across the train tracks is this like abandoned kind of rest stop. Like it just looks like 3 walls and like half of a bench. And it says the name on it, and it's definitely not the name of where we want to go.
Oh, dear.
I will admit that I'm not proud of my reaction at this point, and I may have freaked out.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, and of course it's I'm the one who had planned it. I'm the one, and so everybody kind of follows along on mom's train, and nobody was really kind of saying this isn't where we should get off. So luckily,
sort of your fault, but not really passively your fault because the others didn't help out. Perhaps
there were many fingers pointed in my direction.
I'm not surprised, but not fairly though. But I can imagine that that's what would happen.
Oh, and so now we're standing, and somehow we have cell phone coverage. I know that the next train doesn't come for 2 hours, so we can't sit there and wait. It's not freezing, but it's definitely winter and it's snowy, and I don't think we are completely dressed for 4 hours in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
My boys don't even have boots on. We didn't think that we weren't going hiking. We were going bobsledding. You don't need winter boots for bobsledding. So we crossed the train tracks, realized that the next stop, which is where we wanted to go, Sigulda, is almost 6 kilometers down the track. At one point, should we just walk down the track? No, this is terrifying. You can see that there's a bend, and there would be no place to go if any train came.
Oh,
I'm like, that is the most terrible idea.
Yes.
So we cross over. My daughter says, I think there's a path through the forest. It just looks like forest from this point. And so based on thankfully having some connection on our phones, it looked like we could get to the main road where cars and buses would go to the same place.
Right.
So we are now trekking through the snowy path in this actually very gorgeous forest, not entirely sure where it's leading, and then end up at the back of this. There's a fence, but it luckily has an opening of a cement block factory.
Of course.
in outside of in Latvia. So we walk through this. There's nobody there. It's starting to look kind of like a post-apocalyptic movie set. It's like something's gonna we all had different thoughts, and we're like, we just need to get to the main road. This has to go to a main road, and we followed it around. My husband, now we're on the big main road,
right.
And we're not exactly going to be walking up this. Not sure if we should hitchhike. We're not quite that desperate.
There's 5 of you, right?
I have
so
children.
There's
tricky. 5 of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not gonna fit in the back of a little Latvian car.
No.
My husband sees what he thinks is a bus stop. He goes over. It's all in Latvian again. He's using his Google Translate, and then we see the bus. And we're screaming and yelling, bus, the bus, trying to wave it down, tell my husband. He doesn't hear us because he's concentrating on when it's coming again. And the bus pulls over. So we run through the snow. I mean, the people there gave us even more crazy looks. What are you doing getting on here? This is a cement block factory.
It's the middle of nowhere.
Where have you been? Like, where did you come from? We get on, and the kids just looked at me, and I'm like, just go find a seat. Just go sit down. I know it's going in the right direction towards where we're going. I don't know what the stop will be, but just go sit down. And we had to kind of just take whatever seats were available. And the bus driver, who spoke very little English, didn't even want, he just like, just get on, just get on, sit down. He'll deal with us later. He keeps going. My husband's a couple seats up. My daughter's a couple seats back. The boys are way in the back. And we stop a couple more times, and I go, okay, this is the one. I think if we don't get off here, we're going to go too far past where we are trying to get to. So We're now trying to get off. My husband just holds out a handful of coins And the bus driver just kind of exasperatingly takes what he needs. The kids are like, "What do we do?" I'm like, "We're just getting off. Just get off. Just get off.
Just be quiet and get off."
And then we had to walk about a kilometer there to where the train station actually was, and luckily it wasn't so far from there to the bobsled, and we made it. And all of that drama was actually from the exit, the mistaken exit to reaching the bobsled was under an hour. So it wasn't horrible. It's very amusing, and I'm usually butt of all the jokes because it was me who did not perform well or didn't react well. I did not react well at all.
I'm so glad. Did everyone enjoy the bobsledding experience once you got there?
It was so fun.
Oh, thank goodness.
so fun. And it's only 1 minute of bobsledding, and you're in this kind of soft bob thing that they've made. It looks like gym mats have been kind of strapped together with four sides, and then you put helmets on, and then they just push you down. Ooh. And it's hilarious and fun, and all five of us together. And it's rare to find something that kind of is exciting and fun from top to bottom in our family, and It was a hoot.
I'm really glad at the end of the day that Erin and her family all enjoyed the bobsledding thoroughly. And I'm going to leave a link in the show notes to a post that Erin wrote on her blog about that very day. And it includes some photographs of the scenery they were trekking through when they were sort of course correcting after their wrong exit on the train. I've done things like that before too. I completely get it. It's quite stressful, but it's annoying if there's four other people who can blame you for it. So anyway, well done, Erin. I think you'll be listening more carefully at the next Latvian train you're on. Now, my final guest today is Sandra Muller. And she has not really a tale directly of getting lost, but of an interesting phenomenon that occurs to her when she's overseas.
Well, if you've ever been to Melbourne,
yes,
there's Punt Road and Hoddle Street. It's a major north-south thoroughfare, and it's the one road. And I once got lost going from Hoddle Street to Punt Road.
So you don't have a really good record of the of the dealing with directions and stuff.
No, I'm extraordinarily bad. And when you go to a public toilet and you walk in through one door and you go to the toilet, do your business, come out, wash your hands, and you go to walk out that same door you came in, well, frequently I find myself struggling to open, like, the janitor's closet.
Right, you're really bad.
Or if it's, like, got doors on either end, I end up out the other end.
Oh, and then you really have
and I'm like, where's TJ gone? Why have they moved that shop across there? And I'm always getting lost that way. But I very rarely do it when I travel.
Oh, now how is that possible?
I don't know.
Are you paying more attention?
I think I am. I think there's just this hyper awareness of what a lack of sense of direction that I have, that suddenly kicks into overdrive when I'm overseas. And I'm in completely unfamiliar cities that I've never been to before, and I have to map out where I'm going. I'm just so cautious about it. But I can never, ever apply that back to life in Australia.
So travel has taught you something. Travel has taught you the skill to not get lost, but you can't manage to apply it in normal everyday life back home.
Yes, it has proven to me that it's not that I'm sort of in a compass, but that if I pay attention, I can get it right.
That is hilarious.
And I'm a big bushwalker. I love to go hiking, and I would often grab quite a few friends and we'd head off into the bush together, and it was always ending up with backtracking, retracing, looking at maps, head scratching, people going, "Oh, San," and I'm just famous for it in my circle of friends and with my family. They just roll their eyes at me.
So they're all expecting to never hear from you again because you have got lost in some Korean shopping mall.
Yes, but I don't.
That's incredible.
That's the bizarre thing. Whether I'm on my own or with someone else, I'm just incredibly unlost when I'm travelling overseas.
It's better, because I think if you're going to get lost somewhere, getting lost in Australia, your home country, is probably a better spot, although not perhaps in the bush necessarily.
Yeah, well, that's why I choose not to hike in the true wilderness.
Right.
I know that I can bush bash for 2 or 3 Ks in that direction, and eventually I'll stumble across a road.
Yeah.
However minor it is, but yeah, no, I won't be going out to the wilderness on my own anytime soon. And I'm quite happy to hand the compass and the map over to someone else and say, I will never blame you if we get lost, because if I hold these 2 things, we will get lost. It's guaranteed.
It's funny, isn't it, that it's a skill that you can have and not have. Like I don't know, I'm not too bad overall, but my biggest downfall was always in Japan. I mean, it's easy to get lost in Japan because, you know, there's not proper street names and there's no proper not proper addresses. There's no orderly system.
Yeah, it's like Korea as well.
Is it the same in Korea, is it? Right.
Yeah, and that's based on the Japanese system, as far as I know.
Yeah, okay, entirely likely. So it's impossible to figure out. Like, if you see an address written down, that doesn't really help.
No, because if they build the first house on the street, that's number 1. Mm-hmm. And then they build the second one further down on the same side of the road, that's number 2. Mm-hmm. And then they build the third one up the other end, that's number 3. And so it goes until there's 140 different
randomly distributed numbers on a street. It's just such an odd, because I mean, Japanese people and Koreans too, are very orderly and organised in many ways. So it's astounding to me that they have never solved this problem. But I think that started me off in Japan, made me always feel like I was kind of always a bit lost. And then I would do the thing of going into a shopping mall and, you know, there was like 4 different entrances and I would go out what I thought was the same one but wasn't. And then I would end up, you know, eventually circling around outside this whole thing trying to figure out where I was supposed to be. And I just constantly got lost when I lived in Japan.
Yeah, okay.
You're
lucky never had that trouble.
You're so smart in Korea then. I'm very impressed.
I don't know. Just hyper vigilant.
Well, I for one find it fascinating that Sandra is able to not get lost in foreign countries, although that does mean that she doesn't end up with the funny stories that Kelly and Erin had. So there's a downside to everything. Anyway, I hope you've really enjoyed listening to episode 98 of the Thoughtful Travel podcast. I love getting lost stories. Please tell me your getting lost story if you've got one. And I will just give a shout out to some of the wonderful guests and my sponsor before we finish up. So, of course, thanks again to Boxu for sponsoring this episode and this whole month of the Thoughtful Travel podcast. You can find them at boxu.com. That's BOKKSU.com. And don't forget that you can use the Thought5, that's the word thought and number 5, discount code for $5 off anything that you buy at boxu.com. I think by next week I'll be able to tell you how they taste. I'm sure they'll be good. I just know because Japanese snacks are amazing and so just fascinating and weird and interesting and tasty. Anyway, enough of me. I've got a empty stomach. I think that's the problem. Thank you very much to Kelly from Global Goose, who told us her getting lost story. You can find her at global-goose.com. Thanks also to Erin. She blogs at Oregon Girl Around the World at OregonGirlAroundTheWorld.com. And I've left a link in the show notes to her particular post about the bobsledding near Sigulda, which includes the bit of the getting lost tale as well. And last but far from least, I chatted with Sandra Muller. You can find her at sandralmuller.com and also at thesmarterwriter.com. All of these links, etc., will be in the show notes. And for this episode, the show notes will be at notaballerina.com/98. And don't forget to come along and join the Facebook group for Thoughtful Travellers. There's a link in the show notes, or just hit Facebook and type in Thoughtful Travellers in the search bar and you should find us there. Thank you so much for listening. This has been another episode of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Show notes and other information are at notaballerina.com/podcast. Join me again soon for another chat about why we travel. Bye for now.